What's up, DigiDestin? On today's episode of Security Check, we sit down with new co-host Mikey, aka Nightmayers, to learn more about his past with TCGs. Let's get into the digital world. We are here with the Security Check Digimon TCG podcast. First of all, Nightmayers, please introduce yourself.
Oh, well, hello there, everyone. I guess my game handle is Nightmayers. My name's Michael Ayers. I'm a old soul. I'm a 36-year-old veteran to most TCGs, I guess I could say. Some that no longer exist.
All right, well, actually, that is the very first question. Second question, I guess. What's your history with trading card games? Like, what all have you played?
I actually started. This is going somewhere. I collected Pokemon cards. My little cousin was really into them. So I started collecting Pokemon, had no idea how to play. I think that was the general consensus for most of the people our age. Then I learned how to play Pokemon. So I played Pokemon for quite a bit. And the next TCG I got into hardcore competitively was the original Dragon Ball Z card game. I got into it and I played it for several years. I went, I guess I won 2 regionals and then I made it to the World's Martial Arts Tournament in that, which is corny, but that's what they called it. And which was pretty cool, which was basically like the nationals for that. I didn't win, but I still made it and I topped in that. Made top 4 in that.
And you were how old then?
I was 17, fixing to be 18.
Jeez,
So
you're going way farther places than I was. I was just, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Going to CM games for a couple tournaments.
Well, what was great about Dragon Ball Z was the community was pretty small, so we had to drive decently far. But what was funny was there was some an actual game store in New Tazewell, which is close to our area, that actually held a tournament and stuff. But we had to drive kind of far for most of that stuff. I even went out of state a couple times for it. But yeah, it was a really fun card game, and the group I played with was a lot older than me, so they were in college, so they were sophomores. Some of them, I think, even a junior in college. So that was basically my ride and stuff for a long time until I got my own car and drove myself and everything. And then I got into Magic, and this was kind of, I guess, Dragon Ball Z kind of died. And I got into Magic, which was late for the Magic game itself, but it was new for me. I loved it. It was way more complex than Dragon Ball Z in the sense of strategy based, not just Dragon Ball Z, kind of like the anime. You could just brute force your way through sometimes. There wasn't as much strategy to it.
So you could play Red.
Yeah, well, okay. So, fun fact, I did play mainly Red. So, Red was, in that card game, Red was physical attacks. Orange, or which would be like a yellow, was energy-based, kind of control-ish. Then, of course, they broke it down into the Namekian and Saiyan. And so I played a red Gotenks beat-em-up deck, is basically what it was called. So, yeah, that's what I played. It was a fun game, but yeah, then I got into Magic, and that's when I started going to CM games and things like that, and I played a little bit of that. Never got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anything, and then here we are now. I'm playing Digimon, MetaZoo. I actually signed up for my first online MetaZoo tournament with Caster Society, so we're going to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm curious about MetaZoo online. I was gonna mention that earlier, and I was like, how'd they do online? Like, how could you prove that you were this close to a lake?
Well, okay, so that's funny. From what I can tell, we have to use Tabletop Simulator. You know my love and hate for that. So we use Tabletop Simulator because it helps with cheating, and then there's constant fourth wall effects that they do for their online tournaments. So Caster Society this season is called Ski Lodge, and there's constant tear effects and constant fourth wall effects that are always in play. So you don't have to worry about those things. So
Sweet.
it's kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, that makes sense. Tabletop Simulator would probably be best. So what about your history with Digimon? What, where did your Digimon
Well,
start?
well, fun fact, I love Digimon. To me, it was always me and my older brother even talked about it years ago. It was the adult version of Pokemon or the teenage version of Pokemon because Pokemon now, especially, we can look back and see it's stayed generally the same. It's changed some, but it stayed more of a kid friendly, very preteen anime. Digimon has grown with its age group. So where we all started with Digimon, it's definitely developed into um, our generation as as a whole. But the Digimon card game, like I love Digimon, and then I had seen it because I started Dragon Ball Super, which was the remake or the revamped version of the original Dragon Ball Z card game. Different company and everything, but Bandai made it. And I really wanted to get competitive in that, but nobody around here played. There was a little cult group at CM Games that played some. And then that's how I found out because all these Bandai players found out about Digimon. I was like, maybe I'll get into it. And then I ran into you one night while you were at work, and you're like, "Hey," I was like, "Oh," and you all were into the Digimon card game. So of course I had to run out and try to scurry to find product, and there wasn't any. So of course I found my first starter decks, and I just sit here and played that with a buddy of mine, and that's all we did. And here we are. I've played in several Mario Gaming World Cup events online, a couple things at CM Games, and then we played in our first championship at Williamsburg, or sorry, Corbin. So yeah, and here we are. I love the game.
I'm hoping that I get to the next championship, but it's crazy that you mentioned that because I'm sitting here thinking that I feel like that was last year, but the game's actually been out for 2 years now, uh,
Yes.
and it just blows my mind because I feel like I just fell asleep at a certain period and then woke back up and here's BT9 and BT10 coming out and BT11 around the corner.
Yeah, we're drooling over BT11 right now. Well, I mean, it feels like that because where COVID had us all on lockdown, and then the strain, Bandai has done this with Dragon Ball Super as well. The strain of them being able to produce product for other regions has always seemed to be a struggle for them. Like I said, this is off topic, but I'm kind of hoping to see how they do with One Piece. We'll see. I feel like that's going to be their baby. They still look like they're definitely ramping up Digimon and Dragon Ball Z as well, but I think that's definitely their next. They're going to definitely hold on to One Piece for a while. But yeah, I think COVID really made the game seem to almost feel like it was stagnant. And then when we started having more online tournaments and then in person events, the game has started. I mean, this is all we needed for it to take off, was having those online, and then those in person events really set it off.
Yeah, it's really helped it tremendously from whenever we first started looking at it. What who's your favorite Digimon? And I feel like I can guess this, but I'm still on the fence.
Okay.
So I feel like my guess would be Vmon.
Hmm.
However, Gamamon has taken your heart.
Yes. Okay. So Vmon was my Digimon. Like if I had to wake up in a reality where digital monsters could exist, Vmon would be my lovable little companion. He's quirky. He's witty. Um, he's also slightly headstrong. Thinks with his stomach. not with his head so much. So yeah, that's definitely my type of character. And then Gamamon fits that just a little more of a childish form. But yes, yes, yeah. Gamamon's definitely watching Ghost Game has made me fall in love with his character and how just adorable and like kind of brave he is. I love it. Love him as a Digimon partner.
All right, so back into the TCG world. So what's your typical play style whenever it comes to TCGs? I know you said that you were playing the like beat face deck in DBZ. So is that your typical go-to?
Yeah, Magic. I'm a red player. Green. I know Digimon's green's not my thing, but in Magic, it's definitely a red green. Like beat them up real fast, aggro decks. Um, which is kind of weird because I didn't really like blue at first when I started Digimon. I was like, all right, Agumon, Greymon, War Greymon. This is going to be my play style. And slowly I've evolved into blue to me being a more hyper aggressive deck, in my opinion. You're not swinging for huge hits. It's, I feel like, a little more aggressive in those little chippy battles, and the mechanics of it allow you to just be a quicker player. So, yeah, I'm really liking blue in Digimon, which is a little bit weird, but I still fast and early. I really like those decks, like Jelly Force, um, Armor Rush, Blue Hybrid. I've seemed to always like be attracted to that, even though I didn't start that way in Digimon.
All right, so with that, what color with the whole color? What color are you staying away from? Like, which one is the least interesting to you?
Green. Green. Sadly, green is the least for me. Um, Even when it first started, I thought it was kind of cool, but nothing about green really attracted me when we first started. And yellow didn't really at first either, but I'm growing. I guess I'm really not a yellow player either, but purple yellow seems to interest me. Yerple. I like it. But blue, like I always go back to blue. Like every deck, I'm like sitting here and I'm like, oh, that's a cool card. I'm like, oh, this would fit great in, like Imperial Dramon, like I just get attracted back into that line and like I'll be sitting here and be like, you know what, Gabubon's not my favorite character, but you know what? Gabubon's really good. And that's just the way it seems to. But yeah, green is my least favorite out of the bunch.
Uh, I used to play whenever I played Hearthstone on. I would always play like Ramp Druid. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm waiting for with Green Argomon. Jordan was playing Argomon, and it seemed really interesting to me. But I was instantly drawn to purple. Like just anything dealing with the trash. Like when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I was playing Chaos Popper, which was
Yep.
a light and dark type deck, and you'd bring stuff back from the grave every time. And then I played a chain beat, and you'd just like chain stuff to avoid effects, and just the trash. I don't know, just draws me in every time.
So what's your favorite archetype at Magic? This will really set it off. What's your favorite color in Magic in MTG?
So most of the decks, like the one that I got from you and still haven't played, I blue and black, mostly black, but also green black interests me.
See, that's something like when I try to explain Digimon to people, uh, which all card games really do. You use Magic as your base. You don't use Pokemon as your base. You always use Magic as your base, and then you build from there. Because I do feel like you said blue, black, and that's the control. Like a lot of your deck schemes, I've noticed as we've played card games together, you like to make those really anti-meta, like control decks. Like you love to control the board, and then so when you pick Tyrannomon as your go-to, I was like, this is just straight up just beat your head on the keyboard.
Yeah,
Like
it's just turn. It's time to turn my brain off for a minute and just go burr.
so that's what really shocked me when you were like, oh, you got this blue, I was like, oh, so like, just reading your Pokemon builds and stuff. I was like, you know, cardboard is definitely a control player. Like, so yeah, but you said play from your trash, and that's something, if you don't know, guys, that Magic Black does a lot. Is you sacrifice creatures, you sack them, and then you pull things from the grave. So I mean, that's a big mechanic in that. Which is funny because in Black, Digimon doesn't do that. Black is blockers. Black, you build the big wall and you just pray to God you can swing through it or destroy some of their blockers, which I'm hoping will definitely come up at least by BT11. I think Black in the US meta, I think, will be bigger than it was in Japan.
Yeah, Black started out whenever we first started playing. Black was always that one that Jordan loved it, but everybody like didn't know how to handle blockers, so
Mm-hmm.
it was really hard to play around, and you could just play into time every time, and it wasn't something that people wanted to do, but they liked being the block style deck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone like, um, well, it's just hard to do because Black, even now, like Black still hasn't found its own identity. We've still got blockers. We've got the reboot. We've got
And
D
Digivolve.
D Digivolve, D Brigade. We even have its own inside mechanic, really, with freaking Diaboromon and spamming tokens.
I
I
hope
just feel
tokens turn into something more. That's another thing that I have a love for.
well, yeah, well, I don't know what they're going to do with them. Like, this is going to sound weird, but playing MetaZoo, there's literally just token cards you can put in your deck, and they could be like prize tokens or anything. Like, this person was at a MetaZoo event, and it's literally just a token. You can have one per deck, and there's actually cards that play off that. The neutral aura actually plays off a lot of those token cards, and like, there's cards you can do damage based off tokens. So, um, I would like to. I don't know if we'll see any more Diaboromon support soon, especially not for the US. But that's actually one of my first decks I built was Diaboromon, that I really tried to go with, and then of course I gravitated to Gabubond and then Greymon Tribal and went from there.
Are you just reading my interview script here? Because the next
No,
question was talking about what decks are you playing currently, and what decks did you start out with? Like,
okay. Well,
how has your deck playstyle evolved with Digimon?
okay. I think that explains it. So when I first started Diaboromon, and at the time it didn't have as much support, but it was a little bit not complicated, but you definitely had to strategize, trying to predict or what Diaboromon style you wanted to go to. And then of course I just went with red because my first tournament I went into was with the Mario Gaming. He does a Mario Cup, which has nothing to do with the Mario itself, but he just done that. And I went with red Agubond. I was like, okay, I can do this. And that was when EX1 had came out, and I built that deck. And I was really excited with it because I was so nervous because like I'd been many years since I'd played in a tournament, let alone an online tournament. So I didn't know how it would go. And I ended up placing 23rd, which doesn't sound that good, but out of 66 people, I felt like that was pretty good.
I
I
mean,
made.
for your first time playing Digimon,
Mhm. And a lot of people were super friendly. They were not, which I have noticed as the game has developed, and now that I think we're into, close to a year of strong competitive play, there is less forgiveness. We are starting to get some definite elitists out there. There was a few of them in the beginning, but I feel like we've started to get a lot more that don't allow misplays and stuff, especially online, because everyone's always afraid you're cheating. So,
yeah, that's another thing, seeing how far that the community's changed, like that changes the community's made in the 2 years. Because when we first started, there was nobody really playing. It was everybody just kind of like, "Oh, hey, did you hear about the Digimon TCG?"
Well, that's something too. I not to be, biased, but I feel like our little group in the Discord and stuff that we have for the Digimon, the local region, I think they're still pretty nice. They're still pretty friendly.
Yeah, we've got a good group, a solid group, and keep adding to it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. Um, that's a lot of card game struggles is finding your little niche in your area, and then also finding communities that aren't like far to drive. Like us being here, we can go to Knoxville or we can go to Corbin. Like there's those two pretty well established groups, and then of course there's Kingsport, Murfreesboro. There's a bunch of other places that have a solid faithful 10 to 16 people, and we can travel within an hour to 2 hours and be at several places to play, which has made it easier now.
It's just getting the days off from work now. That's the
Oh, for
challenge.
sure. Getting days off work is super hard. I'm actually burning a PTO day for the 20, is it the 22nd, when CM's holding the store champions?
Yeah, I believe
Yep.
so.
So yeah, I done requested a PTO day for that. So
What deck are you going to be taking to that? Or are you still undecided?
I'm still undecided. I want to see because we will definitely be into the BT10. So I don't know as of right now. I may take Gamamon. I'm not sure yet.
Do it.
Well, I mean, that's going back to my roots. That's going back to red, but finally red is going to have, you're going to be able to not like, that's my go-to right now. If not, I'm still loving Armor Rush. I guess that's where I've developed to now is I'm not so much as a one-hit KO kind of guy. I'm a more of a spam the board, more magic style, aggro deck. So I think Gamamon in this next set will allow me to do that and have multiple options and have multiple, not big bodies, but with all his bonuses and pluses he can get pretty easily from a hero, he's going to be able to get pretty big bodied, 10, sometimes averaging 8 to 10k DP on swings. So I mean, he'll be able to survive through most security checks. It just depends on what the meta is. I mean, we'll be like what, a week into it, maybe 2 weeks into it by the time that store championship rolls around. No, 3 weeks. So we'll be pretty far into the meta. So we'll be able to see what it looks like and how it develops.
All right. So at this point, where BT9 is and where BT10 is when it's coming, how do you feel about the direction of the game overall? We got BT11 around the corner. Can't wait for it.
BT11 just excites me just because I know we do a lot of basing off of the Japanese meta because they get it first. But Americans, like we've talked about a dozen times, we play totally different. We don't run a lot of option cards. We're just straight up Digimon smack face. So I
I feel like
think
I feel like I should be in their meta instead of America's sometimes.
I've said that or I've thought that for a while. I feel like that suits your playstyle. But even me, like I think that's where in our meta a lot of cards, like especially with Armor Rush, I've been looking, and a lot of people, there's a lot of option cards for Armor Rush, and people's like, oh, that's not good. Lightning Blade, no, not good. Um, there's another one. There's a X Armor. It's a big move. Oh, not good. And I think that's because right now there's not a lot of small bodies on the board because we're in a OTK meta. Build your big stack, build your tower, and you just leave it in raising and push forward when you're ready to digivolve and go in for the kill. And I'm hoping in BT10 we start seeing a lot more divergence because that's what we need. There's always going to be a meta where just certain decks rule the roost. They just dominate. But I'm ready to see our meta expand a little bit wider. And of course, as we release in the BT10, especially BT11, if they do anything like Dragon Ball Super, and this is what I'm hoping for as Digimon goes into the future, is Bandai is always really good to release support for old archetypes. And I really think, that we will see, just like we were done seeing in BT11, revitalizing the black Agumon line, the black Greymon line, and they're giving it a big boost, which, I feel like as Americans, we're always quick to fuss about bans and stuff. But now that we're seeing some of the cards in BT11, I'm like, that's why. Or, oh, look, there's going to be an answer for that. Like, this is why this is here. We're worried about, you know, cross heart and all this stuff. And I'm like, but literally in BT11, we're going to have the answer for it or something to stifle it off.
All right. So, as a host on the Security Check podcast, what kind of content are you going to bring to the party?
Just Digimon based content or just content as a whole?
In general, what are you going to bring to the group discussions?
I feel like our group I love meta, like I love winning. But then again, we was joking tonight, this is totally not nerd or Digimon related, but I'm in a fantasy football league and everybody's always like, why do you pick that person or that person? I'm like, I like a good underdog. Like, I love to make those picks that everybody's like, oh, they're not going to be good. And they turn into, they're your diamond in the rough.
D
And
Reaper.
yes, yes. And I think that's what I want to bring to our discussions is I love to hype up games. I love to see games thrive. But what makes a game thrive is fighting the meta, is knowing what it is and knowing how to play around those dominant metal, Garurumon X. Even though I think it's total trash. Guru hybrid is still better. But anyway, I just think that that's what you need to look for. That you need to always be, and I think that's what I want to bring to the table, and also bring some insight into other card games. I've been around a minute, and I've dabbled in literally every TCG. Like I said, I'm excited about the new Lorcana. I've got cards strewn everywhere. I've got Magic, Pokemon, Digimon, MetaZoo, Flesh and Blood. I've got some One Piece. I actually joined the server and got some One Piece starter decks coming, so I want us to get our hands on that. But I think that's what allows me to like kind of look into a meta a little more, not as zoned in, but on a wider perspective. So that's what I'm hoping to bring to the table. Think out of the box. Hopefully diverse our meta quite a bit more than what it is right now.
Bring up cards that you tell Mario will be good, and then he says they're terrible, and then he says, "Oh, well, that's pretty good."
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's always bothered me is like, you have 6 or 7 large YouTubers that are like, "Hey, this is the deck you want to run," and then I'm like, "Well, what about this deck? Or what about this deck? Or why isn't this card used?" And I'm that type of person. I have to play with a deck with that card in it to be like, "Oh, that's why they don't use it," or "Oh, that's why it sucks." Or I love those moments when we're playing and people's like, that card's busted. Why don't people use that? And we're sitting here going, I don't know. Those are my moments I live for. Is breaking that meta.
Oh, those are the best. My favorite part. All right, so that is the end of this interview. Where can the viewers get in touch with you at? Do you have Twitter? Do you have?
I have a Twitter. I don't use it a lot. You can find me on TikTok, which is Nightmayers86. Also on Facebook at Michael Ayers. I just got my tag to make reels, to make some money off my reels. So I've been putting info on there. Also, my YouTube channel, which is also Nightmayers. And Instagram, I don't use so much, and Twitter. Twitter's kind of dead to me because making there's so much content to make in so little time. I basically use TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook to put out all my information, and then of course here on the server, the Cataclysmic Cardboard server, Discord.
All right, that's all I've got.
Well,
Thanks
thank you so much for having me. It was
thanks
great
for
to be on the show.
Can't wait for our first actual episode where we all get in here and try not to talk over each other.
No, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for the endless banter. Maybe we can have a couple episodes where we're in the same room. Makes it a little bit easier. Or we'll turn on our cameras and just not record them so we can watch each other.
We can do video lives too. We can set it up. So many ideas going on right now, like the one I sent you earlier. There's just so many ideas.
Oh, we got 17 videos in the making, guys. We just have to make them.
to make them.
Good times. Good times.
All right. So that's the end of the interview. Thanks for watching, listening. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, Castbox, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Stitcher, and I would swear that Spotify and Anchor.
Look at that. So you can basically listen to us on any platform of your choice.
Any platform. Security Check, Digimon TCG Podcast.